What's going on, my beautiful black people? It's God Molecular, here to spread the religion of Mofadai, which is the religion of no religion, here to dismantle and disassemble all religion by the year 2034. I thank you guys for tuning in. I come as Amen, reincarnated this new age, that of the 226th dynasty, which stemmed from King Solomon, who held a descendant by the name of Haile Selassie I, who occupied that of the 225th dynasty. 3 salutes. Ready? Go. And that is in tribute to Amen, as he was known as the most high and the most logical being or deity at his time. I come as him reincarnated to usher in the new age of Aquarius, also known as the age of the Six, as we have transpired from the age of the Pisces, also known as the age of the Seven, and that is as of August 21st, 2017, titled Day of the Great American Eclipse. Spiritual convictions. Spiritual convictions and letting your intuition guide you is a unique quality. Letting your intuition guide you is important to understand. Not let it dictate you, but guide you is very important to understand, because a lot of us, we become spiritually conscious and we get cosmically enhanced, and we end up letting our intuition take control, right? But letting the intuition guide you has a more intelligent tweaking to it than letting your intuition dictate you. You ever had a gut feeling about something, Something's telling you to do the complete opposite of what you're doing. You chose to go left, but your gut is telling you to go right. And once you went left, or once you went right, once you listened to your gut, once you went right, listen to your gut, and you decided to go right, you realized that going left would have been a better option. Because once you went right, you ended up in calamity, distortion, confusion. Listening to your gut isn't always the correct thing to do. A lot of us get trapped in this gut feeling, We get trapped in the guidance of our intuition, and it results in it dictating our decision making. And I don't like to say decision making, because none of us make decisions. You don't make choices. You don't make decisions. You don't chose to do what you're doing. Simply because everything that you decide to do or what you're going through is destined for you to do so. Choice was nullified from the very beginning of you being manifested here on this planet. Choice was taken away from you simply because you did not have a choice to be born. And that nullifies decision and choice from the very beginning. That takes away choice. I know no person here on this planet that had chosen to be born. Consciously. You've chosen to be born, even subconsciously. No one here on this planet chose to be born. So that nullifies choice from the very beginning. And what you have is destiny. Your destiny. And in that destiny, you build an intuition that's based off of the subconscious recording of your experience of this reality. Your intuition is the mind of your subconscious. Subconsciously, everything that you experience is recorded, even though you may not remember them. You know, for example, do you remember what foot you stepped on while getting out of bed today? Do you remember when you woke up? Were you exhaling or inhaling as you woke? The same exact moment. That moment that you woke up. Were you inhaling or exhaling? Do you remember how many steps it took for you to get to your destination once you woke up and got out of your bed? Do you remember how many steps that you took to get to your next destination after the bed? And once you reach that destination, do you remember if you were inhaling or exhaling destination? None of these things could be remembered, but you've done them. And in doing so, you've recorded it. Everything is recorded. Your subconscious records everything that you experience in this reality, whether you remember it or not. Your subconscious records these things, you know. And then that you've built an intuition that's based off of the experiences that you have of this reality. And that intuition plays as an arbitrator in time. Your intuition strengthens your judgment. And if you're not conscious of this intuition, you end up giving credibility of the intuition to something external to your body. You look at thermodynamics and you study exergonic forces and endogonic forces, exothermic forces and endothermic forces. You look at things such as enthalpy and entropy, which are representatives of how energy is ordered. Is there a disorder or is there a order in the spontaneity of energy? Nothing is external to your body. A lot of people look at me crazy when I say that Allah, Allah, was discovered as arm, leg, arm, head by a brother known as Clarence 13X. And this discovery gives the cosmic, comprehensive, intelligent reasoning of that word being chosen to be the definition of God. I'm not going to get into etymology and things. I don't get into things of that nature, you know, simply because it's a rabbit hole. What does this word mean? You could tell me what this word means, but what does that word mean? You know, somebody said the other day that the word apple stemmed from the word apple or something like that. And I'm like, okay, if that is the origin of that word, where does that word come from? And it's a rabbit hole. You keep going and you keep going. And etymology is something that's very dynamic in the usage of trying to display consciousness or present consciousness to people simply because it could be used as leverage to confuse people. Leverage to confuse people. People could apply the understanding of so-called etymology. They could apply these things and they could become, they could seem very persuasive to one's understanding and ability to grasp a certain concept. But spiritual conviction is imperative to your understanding because your intuition is built off of subatomic forces. Subatomic forces that are impacting your conscious experience, which is your cosmic comprehension. It's a way to tame your thoughts. Having knowledge of yourself and understanding yourself could boil down to the atomic arrangement of what you are. Everything around you has color. There's color to everything around you. These colors represent vibration and how these vibrations are speeding the movement of these vibrations. Cells are coming in contact with other cells and they're letting off sounds. These sounds persuade through the angstrom, if you study the angstrom in biochemistry. These sounds through angstroms persuade the coloring of different types of things. But you look at the melanated man and woman, the black man and woman on this planet. Our atoms and our molecules and our cells, our organelles within our body has come together to create a unique color. A cosmic color that cannot be defined in this basic reality. The color of your skin cannot be defined in a fundamental or with a fundamental narrative because it's that dynamic. So they gave it a scientific name known as melanin. And you study brothers such as Dr. Sebi, who says melanin does not exist. Melanin is not real. And what you do have is carbon. What you have is carbon. So you break down the understanding of carbon, and brothers like myself come to a conclusion that melanin is the intellectual property of carbon. An intellectual property is something as simple as music. It's not an actual physical thing that you can go to and touch and smell and feel. It doesn't have a physical embodiment. But it is also real. It's there. It's an intelligence. It can persuade someone. It can emotionally impact someone. It's just as authoritative as a human or something with a body on this planet. It has the exact same authority, but it's not there. It has no physical location. It has no physical embodiment. So that intellectual property of carbon, and carbon having a chemical compound of carbon 12, C10, carbon 18, hydrogen 10, nitrogen 4, and oxygen 2. This is the carbon skeleton chain of carbon itself. Carbon 18, hydrogen 10, nitrogen 4, and oxygen 2. That is the actual biological formula of melanin. And when you study cells and you get into biology, you'll see the power of the electron. The power of the electron and how covalent bonding, things such as covalent shells, covalent bonding takes place in atomic shells, and how the electron causes for bonding to take place. And the closer one foreign electron gets to the nucleus of another foreign atom, and the nucleus being the proton and the neutron, the closer it gets, the more activity that's displayed. All of these things are intelligence that comes together and persuades your intuition. So when you have this intuition as a beautiful black melanoid person that's made up of all things in the universe, your intuition is both good and bad, so to speak. Because listening to your intuition could allow you to experience something that's pleasurable and displeasurable in this reality. Good and bad does not exist, and what you have is pleasure and displeasure. And this narrative coincides with electronic charges down to the atomic level. And these charges persuade your neurological responses. There's nothing but electricity in the body. A lot of people ask, where do your thoughts come from? Do they just come out of thin air? No. Your thoughts are gathered and they conjure up in an organ in your body known as the pineal gland, which houses a very, very dark black pigmentation. If you cut your brain open and looked at the pineal gland, it'll look like a black dot that's in the brain. A black spot that's in the brain. And that is responsible for the conjuring of thoughts. Your thoughts are persuaded by every single last formation of electricity that's inside of your brain. This is all regurgitated knowledge. You can find this knowledge on YouTube. You can read this knowledge in books. All of these things are regurgitated. It's not hard to find this information. But a lot of people fail to connect the dots, leading them in a rabbit hole. A lot of people are taken outside of themselves and their thoughts and their conscious understanding. And once they become consciously inclined, they tend to lean on the intuition and the imagination. And that could take them to something that is outside of this physical reality and cause them to completely dismiss the impact of this physical reality. And thus you have the result of people referring to this physical reality as a holographic reality, when it's not. This reality is very real and very impactful. It's a teacher. This reality is a teacher. So that after you die and you start to lose electrons and your carbon starts to transform, the carbon in your body starts to transform, you then have access to go to other planets and galaxies. And when you enter these other planets, you are to teach these other life forms. No aliens. When I say another life form, something as simple as water could be taught because it's intelligence. There's intelligence in water. When you go to the beach and you see those waves, that's intelligently through energy. There's life in that water. Subatomic macromolecular life in that water. So once you die and you go to these other planets and you encounter a planet that has water on it, you've encountered a foreign life, another life form. And you are to advance this life form so that it could become more like yourself, which is walking, talking, breathing, communication, intelligent formation. It's very important that we understand what happens after this life, what happens when we die. Our ancient ancestors understood this basic science of what happens when you die, which is why when they died, they buried themselves with their things, organs, possessions, treasures, sometimes family, because they understood what happened after the so-called death. But we have to understand death in a scientific way. If you place someone with a bad diet next to someone that's in a coffin, scientifically, they will vibrate the exact same way. That person that's in a coffin next to that person that has a bad diet, and you thermically observe them, you will see that they vibrate the exact same. This is death, because energy does not dispose itself. Energy either becomes compressed or it becomes so-called loose. It has a loose formation. And you can bear witness to this in the formation of mass, solids, liquids, and gas. When energy is more compressed, it becomes a solid. When it's more loose, it becomes a gas or a liquid. Your intuition, I say all these things because your intuition is your dead you. These are your thoughts from your dead self, guiding you into your destiny. Every time you hear that voice that goes against your thoughts, that is your dead you contacting and communicating to you, your dead self. So this is why it's important to project your thoughts into your future so that you can manifest your reality. If you constantly think about being a millionaire, constantly, and you put forth the energy, the kinetic energy, not the chemical or the potential, but the kinetic energy, you're doing work. If you put forth that energy, eventually, the laws of this and your through principles, and things are going to start to happen. You also have to keep in mind that as a beautiful black melanoid person, you are telepathic and you have telekinesis. You ever think of a song, and as soon as you hopped in your car and turned on the radio, that song is playing? Being able to identify coincidence and intelligently understand that it is not a coincidence, it builds your higher will. Coincidence does not take place. Coincidence is not real. What you have is intelligence, the same forces that is inside of seawater, like I was explaining earlier. It's an intelligence that defines the understanding of this reality. So mental and spiritual conviction is an intelligence of your dead self that has already been in this reality, already experienced this reality. I remember a while ago, before I came into a higher consciousness, there was a brother who was already there, and he told me, that he would practice things like magic and voodoo and things of that nature. And I asked him a question. I forgot what it was. But his response is what shocked me, because he told me that the spirits that he utilizes, these very powerful spirits, they cannot predict the future. But they've been around so long that they are for certain of what's going to happen. They've been around Earth and here on this planet for so long. And this is energy. This is the fundamental concept of energy. Because energy has been around and around and around and around. So when you hear these voices in your mind, this is an ancestor. This is an ancestral application to energy that has been around for so long that is 100% certain of what's going to take place, but it cannot predict the future. No ancestor, no dead ancestor can predict the future. Nothing can predict the future. Nothing. But it could be so structured. Things could be so structured in their knowledge. Things could be so understood in their knowledge that they can almost be 100% for certain what's going to take place. It's kind of like having your child, If you put a color in front of your child, you know exactly what color your child is going to choose as a liking. If you put a certain food in front of your child, you know exactly what food is going to attract your child. If you could bet on that understanding, you will almost 100% win each and every last bet. So people trying to grasp the spiritual conviction, people trying to grasp their spiritual conviction and use their intuition to guide them instead of dictate them. These people have a higher conscious calling in their destiny. A higher calling, a higher consciousness. right? Something that's beyond intelligence, something that's beyond telepathy and telekinesis. It is allokinetic. You have to be able to recognize things like coincidence. Because the mere times that a coincidence takes place, it is a structure or a message from your dead self, your dead you, the other you, the energy form that has already transpired to impact your thoughts. Your dead you communicating with you. This is your intuition. The energy that has already been around. Things like deja vu is real. I've experienced it myself. All the time, you know. These are convictions. This is communication between yourself and you. This intuition that you build that shapes and molds your atomic structure, your molecular structure, your macromolecular gathering. The thing that defines your subconscious. It's very important how you comprehend the metaphors, the metaphysical, the metabolism of spirituality. The most dynamic thing amongst cells and atoms and organelles is the metabolism or the metabolism. Because in metabolism, energy is rearranged and used and removed and applied. Energy is so diverse. Through the metabolism of cells. You have the deoxyribonucleic acid, and you have deoxyadenosine triphosphates in the body. And they come together and they fight things such as formaldehydes and aldehydes and that forms inside of the body that causes the body to shift the cells in a polar way and causes harm to the body. How an all is formed on alcohol. Phospholipids, the amylopectins, the amylose, the chloroplast of the body, the cytoplasmas of the body. These are all contributors of cellular metabolism. The RNA is very important, or the nucleic acid is very important because in the Bible, it speaks about a woman being created from the rib. RIB, the rib. And you study biology and you see the rib, a nucleic acid. The ribonucleic acid, also known as RNA. And you see how bone marrow and the application of eukaryotes, and algae and things of that nature. You see how these things come together. They have membranes, outer membranes, inner membranes. They have nucleuses, nuclei, and you'll see how biology impacts the spiritual intelligence, which overall shapes the spiritual conviction of one's destiny. Because everything down to the subatomic level is programmed to work and structure a certain understanding within your body. A lot of people talk about decalcifying the pineal gland. How do you decalcify the pineal gland? They say you have to eat this, and you have to meditate, and you have to do this and do that. And this is why if you go to any African museum, go to an ancient African museum. Just last year I went to the world's biggest African bronze museum, located in Orlando, which is where I'm from, at the Fashion Square Mall. And they had some of the most ancient bronze statues ever found and collected and ever made, right? And for the most part, all of them had this common artistry to it. There's this common design with all of them that reflected the lifestyle of the ancient African. There was this common concept of life and reality. All of them had this same exact narrative, and it's artisan, the art of it. It had a common concept, The ancient Zimbabwe statues and the ancient synagogue statues, and they all had this common artistry, this common concept of reality. But when you got to the ancient Egyptians, they had an ancient Egyptian section. The ancient Egyptians were almost 100% different than all of the rest of Africa's ancient art. And it was so appealing. It was so structured. It was so unique and original. The way that ancient Egypt was put together, the art, the concept of the Egyptian reality was 100% different. It did not look like the rest of the ancient African art. And this hit my intelligence immediately. Okay, these people had to have been thinking on a level that was higher than the rest of Africa. The ancient Egyptians. But at that time, they could have been seen as foolish. It could have been seen as humorous, their traditions and the things that they thought, the way that they applied themselves, you never know. So a lot of times thinking different is to think the opposite. So that led me to the conclusion that they might have been thinking the complete opposite of the rest of Africa. Meaning that this spiritual person is making altars, and they're doing certain spiritual practices that they believe if they don't indulge in, something bad is going to happen, or something catastrophic is going to happen. But the ancient Egyptians did exactly the opposite of that. Is what I believe. Because in order to think higher, you have to think in a different direction. Adversity is very intelligent. So if this nation is building rituals and altars and things of that nature, and this nation decides to do the complete opposite, what does that show in this reality? What does that show? That shows the principles of energy, because it does not matter what you do as a melanoid person. Melanin will thrive and melanin will survive. So when it comes to decalcifying the pineal gland, do the exact opposite of what you're being told. If you're being told that you have to eat this way or meditate this way, or you have to read this and do this at this time, and you have to create this altar, and you have to do such and such, do the exact opposite of that and learn. If the universe is telling you, or the voice in your head is telling you that if you do not do this, there's going to be catastrophic and divine destruction upon you. If you do not do this, whatever it may be, if something in your mind, even your gut, is telling you that if you do not do this task or whatever, if you do not do this, then there's going to be catastrophe upon you. If this happens to you, do the complete opposite. Do the opposite. Don't do it at all, is what I mean. That will be the opposite choice. And learn from it. Because that is what melanin is. Melanin is a learner. Melanin is so intelligent that it knows nothing. Melanin is to learn the unknown simultaneously, constantly. Learn the unknown. That is the circle of cosmic reality, cosmic comprehension. Do the complete opposite. If something in your head is telling you that if you don't do this, you're going to die, then do it. Don't do it, I'm sorry. Don't do it. Do the complete opposite of what that thing is telling you and see what happens. And if you don't die, then you learn. And you're able to place yourself in a certain position. A lot of people look at me crazy, when I say that I command my ancestors. I command my ancestors. I'm not going to build an altar to praise them and honor them, because I do these things within my mentality daily. I'm not going to create a ritual to try to manipulate their understanding. But I'm going to command them. I'm in charge. And they should be thanking me because I will thank them. They should be thanking me because I will thank them with all humility. In front of a crowd, butt naked, I will drop down on my knees and thank them, and they know this. So they should be thanking me for that. And that is to command your intuition, your inner self, the endothermic energy, not the exothermic, the endogonic energy, the inner self. Clarence 13X discovered Allah as being arm, leg, arm, head. But what Mofadine the Al-Kebonaki teaches is that Allah is arm, lung, arm, head. Because the lungs are internal. And Allah deals with internal and external. Arm, leg, arm, head is all external. But arm, lung, arm, head is both internal and external. This is equilibrium. Balance. There has to be balance to apply a superconscious reality and to comprehend a divine cosmic intelligence so that you may be able to command your spiritual convictions and do what you want. Do what you want. That is the sole purpose of this reality, is to do what you want. As long as it's not homosexuality and pedophilia. Do what you want in this reality. Because you are God. And that is what God does. What God wants. Letting your intuition guide you is important, sure enough. But being able to observe this physical reality, your intuition can't do that without you, which gives you the upper hand in your cosmic intelligence. So therefore, you are to be the judge of your destiny. And do what you want is what's most important. Doing what you want. Doing what you want to do. That is what's most important. You know, I could sit here and be a brother who's like the Moors and the Hebrew Israelites. I can be a brother who can, try to inform you about the law. I can try to inform you about what the Bible says and give you all these numbers and dates and times. Give you all this education. I can be like these brothers easily. I've been on that. I've been down that road, But there are those who have a higher conscious perspective on all of life. So when you see, things like what I was mentioning earlier about Africa and Egypt, you understand that you don't have to eat this or do this and do that to decalcify the pineal gland. All you have to do is understand the fundamental of life. We was taught not to look at the sun. So I'm going to be the adversary and I'm going to look at the sun simply because I was told not to do it. And in doing so, I was revealed truth, meaning that I cannot go blind. No matter how long I look at the sun, I cannot go blind. I cannot go blind. And I can look at the sun for however long I want. And in that higher understanding, that must and is the true way to decalcify the pineal gland with natural organic sunlight and photons that penetrates the darkness of your mental reality. You have to bear witness to the third eye before you can believe that it's there. You have to see it. And you can only see this through the sun, by looking at the sun. So it doesn't matter what you eat, how you meditate, what altar you have, and what magic you decide to execute. If you want to decalcify, so-called decalcify your pineal gland, all you have to do is bear witness to a truth. See the third eye yourself. Look into the sun. That is what the ancestors was telling us the whole time, because there's nothing that you can do about that source of light on this planet, which makes it law. It cannot be changed, re-altered. Even though at some point, at points of time, I believe that we did rearrange and re-alter the sun. Scientifically, we did things to the sun, but it always remained a bright source that's in the sky. No matter what lies that you read on this planet, the truth is always going to be that the sun is going to rise at a specific time. And is going to orchestrate all of life here on this planet. That is a truth that cannot be altered, rearranged, or changed. And in your higher consciousness, the objective is to get to the truth, the one truth. And then strengthening your vision by extreme levels of sun gazing. I always tell people to sun gaze when the sun is highest up in the sky. Train yourself to be able to look at the sun when it's highest up in the sky. The sun releases a vast amount of intelligence at that time, which we can feel as being the most intense of the day. That's when the sun is the hottest. This structures the pineal gland because sunlight is the only thing that can make its way to the pineal gland. This is what our ancestors was telling us. This is why some way, somehow, that third eye with that pyramid ended up on the back of a US dollar bill. It goes back to our ancestors being around for so long, energetically, through energy, that they calculated a certain prophecy that would pertain to a certain generation of black beings. And this generation is us today. And in that calculation, their sense of intelligence ended up on the back of a $1 bill of what's considered to be the most powerful country on this planet. They calculated that. They didn't predict the future, but they've been around for so long that they calculated that. It could have been a mountain, a tree, a cloud on the back of a $1 bill, but it's not. It is the all-seeing eye on the back of the $1 bill. So, we have to deal with reality with what we can bear witness to, because that is the controlling source of your spiritual conviction. Things that you can see is what enhances your spiritual conviction. A lot of people, they talk about consciousness. A lot of people listen to my audios and they think that I'm just someone who's trying, I'm a person. I'm just a nigga who's trying to, trying to seem like I'm also knowledgeable and I have so much wisdom, or, there's plenty of niggas out here who's doing that shit. And that is true. But I am speaking to a specific person. A specific person who all these other niggas cannot reach. People who are very intelligent. They cannot be manipulated. You listen to the Young Pharaohs, the Bobby Hemmets, the Brother Polites, the Nature Boys, the Brother Panics, and Brother C. Freemans, and you listen to all these brothers, but there's still a void in that consciousness. There's still a void in that consciousness. And I know this because I'm one of those people who has that void. Something isn't all the way fulfilled, the Malachi Z. Yorks and the Yahweh Ben Yahwehs. You listen to all these people and something is just not all the way making sense. Not 100% to the point where I can say that, okay, this gives my reality complete purpose. And a lot of time these brothers fail to deal with what the eye could see. But I thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for joining. It's God Molecular, here to spread the religion of Mofadai, which is the religion of no religion, here to dismantle and disassemble all religion by the year 2034. I thank you guys for tuning in. I come as Amen, reincarnated this new age, that of the 226th dynasty, which stemmed from King Solomon, who had a descendant by the name of Haile Selassie I, who occupied that of the 225th dynasty. 3 salutes. Ready? Go. And that is in tribute to Amen, as he was known as the Most High and the most logical being or deity at his time. I come as him reincarnated to usher in the new age of Aquarius, also known as the age of the Six, as we have transpired from the age of the Pisces, also known as the age of the Seven, and that is as of August 21st, 2017, titled Day of the Great American Eclipse. And I just want to say this before I close, and it reverts back to sun gazing. Sun gazing is important because we have to bear witness to a truth, which is seeing the sun. No one can lie about the movement of the sun, or the sun being there and impacting all of this reality. And in the movement of this planet and how this planet moves in the cosmos, it's also imperative that we bear witness to total solar eclipses with our own two eyes. So sun gazing strengthens your perspective and your ability to look at total solar eclipses. And total solar eclipses are important to understand because they pertain to centuries in the movement of the earth. The movement of ages. We'll be able to understand why our magics and rituals don't work. Because we've entered certain ages and we've exited other ages. And we're able to identify that by looking at total solar eclipses. Being able to see a total solar eclipse with your own two eyes. Being able to see eclipses, period, with your own two eyes. But most importantly, a total solar eclipse is very important to your cosmic intelligence. But I thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for joining. It's God Molecular. Peace.